Hello everybody and welcome back to another Kings of War battle report. I'm Visibly Riley, and this week we have Empire of Dust versus Orcs in a 2300 point battle of Salt the Earth. Now, as a small reminder, we are now doing list reviews at the end of the video, so if you guys care about that sort of stuff, stick around till then. So first off, we have my opponent's Orc army, which opens with 2 Horde of Great Axe, both of whom have Orcish Skull Poles, and then one has the Brew of Haste and the other the J-Boots. Then we have a Horde of Long Axe, which also has an Orcish Skull Pole, and then also the Potion of the Caterpillar. Followed by 3 regiments of Morax, 4 troops of Skulks, 1 War Drum, 3 Krudgers, one of whom has Gakamak's Bloody Banner. Then we have 2 Crushers, both of whom have Gore, and then one has the Blade of Slashing, the other the Mace of Crushing. And finally, we have a Skulk Stalker with the Raid Leader upgrade. Now, I said I'm not going to do list reviews here, and I'm not going to, but just a few reminders. The War Drum gives Rally 2 to Orc units within 6 inches of it. Gakamak's Bloody Banner gives +1 Wild Charge to all heavy infantry units within 6 inches of it. And lastly, the Raid Leader upgrade gives the Skulk Stalker, I think it gives it Inspire Skulk, but I know it gives it Steady Aim as an aura to Skulks within 6 inches. Actually, it might be Pathfinders, but whatever, it's just Skulks. So anyway, with that out of the way, let's move on to my Empire of Dust list. Now, this is a bit of Helpy's Rift goodness, but we open up with a Horde of Skeleton Warriors, as always. Then we have 2 regiments of Skeleton Spearmen. We have a regiment of Mummies with the Healing Brew. Then we have 2 troops of Skeleton Deadeye Crossbows, a Horde of Enslaved Guardians with the Potion of the Caterpillar, then a Horde of Enslaved Guardian Archers with the Blessing of the Gods, 2 Bone Giants, a Monolith, 2 Balefire Catapults, one of whom has the Scarab Jars upgrade, a Soul Snare, an Undead ASB with a Tome of Darkness, and finally Sebek Ray the Accursed. So again, there's just as a reminder of what these things do, Sebek Ray is just a Cursed High Priest with Heal 5 and Surge 8, but for, I think, 15 points more than a Cursed High Priest would cost with those upgrades. You also get Very Inspiring instead of Inspiring. You still have all the other rules, and you can cast if you cast Heal onto a unit, you can also cast Surge onto that unit immediately after. Now, also keep in mind that the Reanimator rule has been redone, so while Cursed High Priests I still feel are a little overcosted, or maybe they're fine, but Empire Dust probably needs something in the Necromancer range, or the slightly lower, like the Cursed Priest range of Surge 6 casters. But anyway, the Reanimator rule is a lot better now. Instead of giving you 2 rerolls when you target skeleton units only, it gives you 2 rerolls period, up to 2 rerolls period, and each of those rerolls is given by being within 6 inches of a skeleton unit. So you can get the rerolls to cast onto your mummies, but you need to be near your bone giants or your skeleton spearmen or whatever. So anyway, that's been reworked in the Helpy's Rift upgrade, and let's move forward. So first off, with Salt the Earth. So Salt the Earth is, I don't know, I like this scenario. I always think it's fun, but I'm not particularly good at it. I don't really know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing because I haven't thought too much about it, but it's a rather simple one to set up. You place an objective marker in the center of the field, and then each player receives 3 other objective markers. You put these all out, so they have to be 12 inches away from each other, they have to be 3 inches away from impassable, all the normal rules for objective markers, but you do it before you choose sides, so you don't know who's going to have what side just yet. So you want to generally build a balanced approach, but you can also just sort of gamble a bit and just stack a side and then try to win the roll-off for table side. Now, the little hitch in Salt the Earth is that after a player has completed their turn, they can choose to destroy any objective marker they control, so again, within 3 inches and having the highest unit strength, except for the center objective. So you can just blow up objectives that you don't think you're going to be able to hold, or your opponent is about to go grab. So it has a bit of interplay, and this is that dynamic gameplay that I'm looking for in Kings of War scenarios that I think is lacking in a lot of places. I think this is a great step forward, if only it had scoring throughout the game. So anyway, It's pretty simple, at least on paper, and a bit more complex on the game, of course. So here we see the table layout, or most of it at least. So the red objectives right here are the ones marked in red are the ones that my opponent and I place down, while these blue objective is the dead center of the table. I will say that my opponent, I did explain the scenario while we were setting up, but they haven't played too many games of Kings of War, and I think they got a little confused about it. So like a lot of the the ones on this side of the table are placed by my opponent, but I was already stacking this side, so I don't know. And I was like, well, I'll just go for a stack side and gamble on winning the roll off. But in the end, I was like, I don't really care about I don't care about playing a perfect scenario game right now, just because I'm trying to get used to my army, and I knew my opponent had never played Orcs before, so I was going to have to wear the Orc hat at the same time, an army I'm not well versed in for Kings of War. So anyway, it was a bit interesting right there, but we clarified in the end. It wasn't that big of a deal. So anyway, we've got all those objectives. The red ones are burnable, the blue one is not. They're all worth 1 victory point at the end of the game, though. And for terrain, we have 2 height 9 forests, as we're wont to do. Then we have 1 height 0 flat piece of terrain, or a difficult piece of terrain. We have 1 height 3 hill in the dead center of the table. We have several height 2 obstacles, followed by a height 6 impassable over here, a height 9 impassable right here, and a little off screen. It's actually, this is just the beginning of it. It kind of goes, like this, and then it comes out and just jets. So it's pretty big. And then that one is a height 5 impassable. So 3 pieces of impassable on the table. It's a little lighter on the terrain. I wanted to try this out. I generally like a bit heavier terrain, but we've been playing a lot of heavy terrain games. And in fact, I recorded a battle last Friday, and unfortunately all the pictures got ruined, which sucks because I was playing a 1995 game, which, as you might or might not know, is not my favorite level to play the game at. I think the game is far superior at higher point values, but I was playing it anyway because, it is fun, and unfortunately all the pictures got a little overexposed. I was also playing 120 points down because of my own ineptitude. But anyway, we'll just have to make do with this one. And we were playing a little heavier terrain, but this one is lighter. So interesting. Moving forward to deployment, we start with the Orc side. So we're starting on as if, in this previous picture, we're going to start over here on the left. So over here we have 4 Skulk troops with a Skulk Stalker with a Raid Leader upgrade. They've already scouted forward. Then behind them, we have the Crusher with the Gore and Mace of Crushing. My opponent does have the cab bases for this, but you'll see some of the models not having their base under them, and that's because we only whipped it out to place it down when it was important, because my opponent hasn't taken them off these War Machine bases just yet. Anyway, behind them is a horde of Great Axe with the J-Boots and Orcish Skull Pole. Then to the right of that, we have the Morax Regiment, or the 1st Morax Regiment, I should say. Then in front of that Morax, we have the 1st Crudger right there. Then to the right of that, we have the Long Axe Horde with the Caterpillar Potion and Orcish Skull Pole upgrades. Behind that, we have the Crudger with Gakamax Banner. To the right of that, we have the War Drum. To the right of all that, we have the Great Axe Horde with the Brew of Haste and the Orcish Skull Pole. And in front of that, we have the 2 remaining regiments of Morax. And finally, off to the right of that, we have the Crudger and the final Crusher with the Gore and Blade of Slashing. I will remark, my opponent has gone with these not Avatar Wars. What the hell was this terrible Kings of War? Simon game? I don't remember. Anyway, this Wrath of Kings, that's what it was called. The models are lovely. They're all made by Confrontation Sculptors. I have a lot of respect for them, if not for the game's developer. But I love these models. I love porks instead of orcs. I also love orcs, of course. But I think this would be a great looking army if my opponent gets it all together. And I'm a big fan of the Pharaoh from Privateer Press. I have a very large Pharaoh army from back in the day. So yeah, I'm all for this. Actually, I think I traded all the Pharaoh away. Yeah, I think they're all gone, but I did love them. Anyway, really cool army, and facing off against this side of the table, we have 1 horde of skeleton warriors with a balefire catapult to support it. Then to the right of that, we have the Enslaved Guardian Archer Horde with the Blessing of the Gods in the woods there. To the right of that, we have the Enslaved Guardian Horde with the Caterpillar Potion, and behind them, the Undead ASB with the Tome of Darkness, because, you know, Empire Dust pays a lot for Surge, and this is the cheapest one you can get. It's also pretty nice to have a little bit of inspiring with your Surge, of course, which is the rest of Empire Dust, I guess. To the right of that, we have the Soul Snare, which has received a change in Halpi's Rift. It is now a Spellcaster 1 instead of Spellcaster 0, and I have heard some gnashing of teeth about that, just because Hex is a much better spell now, but on top of it, stuff like the Mind Screech didn't change, but the Soul Snare did, and I'm like, I mean, I get it. The Soul Snare is amazing, but, you know, might want to apply those changes a bit more broadly. Anyway, I think it's fine. It doesn't bug me too much, especially because the Soul Snare is still amazing. Drain Life 9, yes. And off to the right of that, we have the Skeleton Spearman Regiment. We have a Bone Giant. We have the Mummy Regiment with a Healing Brew. To the right of that, we have the Final Bone Giant and the Skeleton Spearman Regiment. This is my little checkerboard of damage, so I have these 3 regiments that can all sort of move as they will, with the giant sitting behind them to add that damage. So I really like this this bit of deployment, which I do in this army quite commonly. And finally, to the right of all that, we have both of the Deadeye Crossbowman Troop, the Balefire Catapult with the Scarab Jars, and finally the Monolith just chilling here in the back, just because I didn't have a better place to deploy it. I don't think I wanted to have my army forward a bit more. So anyway, that's that. Let's get into turn 1. So turn 1 ends up going to the Empire Dust, and we advance forward, as you might expect. We are staying out of the charge range of these Orcs, which isn't that hard because we're not that fast, and just trying to set up some interesting stuff with these Skulks. I want to have some shooting, so I immediately have to break the formation that I like so much to get my Soul Snare forward so I can Drain Life. I can see this unit, so I'm going to try to go for a Drain Life there. I have a bunch of Surge, so I can get I'm 8 inches away, right, or slightly over 7 inches, so an 8-inch Surge to get this Bone Giant into one of these Skulks. And I'm like, well, why not, right? Like, at worst, it's 2 Skulk troops charging me in the flanks and then one of these in the front. These guys are not within charge range. Maybe the Gore is. But as long as my shooting can take out at least one of these 2, I'm not too afraid of all that. And the rest of my shooting will be going into these guys. So yeah, that's the plan right now. And then I have, of course, this big Surge. In a tournament game, I'm not sure I would do this. It's a little risky for not a big reward, but I might do it anyway. I mean, I do a lot of dumb stuff in tournaments, and I do like playing big risk plays, especially in turn 1, even when I don't need to. So yeah, that's the movement right there. Off here on the right, I just advance forward a little bit just to close the door on these Orcs. I do forget to move my Enslaved Guardians. This is not an advanced strategy. I just forget about them. Partly. I mean, I was thinking about the Enslaved Guardian Archers here just halting and shooting, of course, and then I just forgot about these guys entirely. So anyway, that's going to be it for the Empire Dust movement. So let's get into the shooting. First off, we've got the Soul Snare firing into one of the Skulks, along with one of my catapults, and together they do 6 damage, and I think 2 of that was my Soul Snare because, you know, it's swingy. But yeah, getting 6 damage plus the shatter is pretty good. And then we've got all the King's crossbowmen, these are archers, fire into another Skulk unit, landing 4 damage. Skulks are a 9/11, I want to say, nerve, so I'm pretty okay with that. I just need a waiver, really. A kill would be great, but a waiver is necessary to make this Bone Giant plan work. And speaking of that, Sebek, I've already forgotten, is it Sebek Ray? Fires off the Surge and gets it on his own. So that's Surge 8, and no, that's right, I only landed 7, but pretty close, and then I just land it with the second bit of Surge from the Monolith, so getting in there. And off here with the archers, we fire into one of the Morgana regiments, doing 9 wounds, and blowing them up. I did fire the catapult here as well, and I missed. But yeah, so that Morgana regiment is, you can see the war drum sitting back here. So that was a rallied one. So that was an 8 twice to kill it, and I just land it because I'm awesome, of course. And over here, yeah, I do manage to kill off this unit and this unit. So now this charge is looking pretty clean. If I can kill off these Skulks, these guys are not within charge range, except for the Gore, of course, this Crusher. And I can just back up a little bit if I need to. So anyway, we kill all that off, and then we get into the combat, and yep. So I only managed 3 wounds. I do waver the skulk, so at least I got that. A waver is pretty good here because it's protecting me a little bit from getting too many charges. But the funny part here wasn't that I only got a waver. It was that I actually hit pretty well. I think I had 9 attacks and landed 7 hits. I just rolled 4 ones. So yeah, giants, they do what they do. And this is going to be the end of the turn. I'm pretty happy with this. I think anyone would be. I've removed one of the regiments of Morax already. I've removed 2 skulks, and then I wavered another one. So all that shooting really came into play this turn. So you always want to see that when you have a bit of a mixed arm or heavier towards the shooting, getting that good turn 1. So anyway, let's go into Orc turn 1. So we've got the skulks here just pushing backwards, and then this crusher with the Mace of Crushing. I should have spelled that with a K. That would have been funny. Just deciding to go into the giant just to block it up a little bit. I'm not exactly sold on this because it seems like a free trade for me, right? Like I can just kill the guy and then overrun the 2, but I mean, whatever. I know my opponent, just like I do when I'm playing with a new army, I like to get that muscle feel for the army. Like the first few games is just sort of pushing the pieces around and seeing how it feels when you roll the dice for it, at least for me. And I think my opponent might be pushing that right now. Then we've got over here these skulks, or the skulk, what is it, stalker? Is that what it's called? Just moves on over here to give the inspiring here, because these skulks are as good as dead, or at least that's how my opponent sees it. And these ones are getting closer to my little gun core over there, which I think is a pretty smart idea, just because those skeleton crossbowmen are significantly worse than skulks in combat, because skulks at least have the crushing 1. So anyway, going for that. Off here on the right, these long axe advance onto the hill. Now, they're not fully on the hill. They've just placed their leader point, which is about right there, onto the hill, and then part of their unit. So they're still going to get cover from it, but they can now see the battle, which is good, of course. Then we've got a bit of a traffic jam over here. The Morax advance as far as they can, I think, and I think losing that turn 1 was kind of a big deal. Now, the more I look at it, the more I think the Morax should be behind these guys, and that this unit of Great Axe should be where the Long Axe are, and just have gone, fuck the having Pathfinder turn 1, who cares? And then had these guys in front of the double Morax just to protect them a little bit better for my shooting. But that's, it's of course hindsight. So yeah, they advance over there, just keeping their formation a little bit. And here we go with the skulk shooting. They fire at my balefire. They do 0. I don't even think they hit me. But anyway, this little guy with his nice beret, buddy, fires into, I think, my Deadeye crossbowman and manages. Oh no, my skeleton spearman managing 1 wound, which is no skin off their skinless nose. They don't even have a nose. But anyway, they take 1 damage. And over here with the giant, the Mace of Crushing Crusher does 0 hits, or at least 0 wounds. Either way, no, that's right, 3 hits, 3 wounds. I'm completely wrong. So that's a full set of wounds there, but it's a 15 to kill me, so there's no roll. And we move on to the end of turn. So moving into turn 2. And yeah, you might have seen this coming, which is my opponent moved. Let's roll a picture back. So rolled up these great axe, and I'm like, well, I can just disengage from this crusher, move 7, and that's a 1-inch surge into your flank. So I do exactly that, or not a 1-inch, but a 2-inch surge. And I still have the rerolls on Sebek over here. I have a native charge with this bone giant, along with these spears. I'm not sure if I should have sent the spears in, but originally I didn't even see this giant charge, so I sent the spears in, and then this happened a little bit later. So yeah, it might be a bit of a mistake, but that's the plan. And then I've got the surge right there, and then I've placed the soul snare, so I'm likely going to go for a drain onto these long axe, but I might not. We'll see. But I could also drain over here into this area, but that's a lot. Like, I guess I might drain these skulks if I fail with the rest of my shooting. That might be a good idea. But yeah, I just want to slap some of the wounds off this guy, or maybe these guys, and then move on. The mummies here decide to take the charge into the Crusher. Now, this is probably a bit of a mistake because I do plan to remove this unit of Skulks during my turn. And if you're not familiar with Great Axe, Great Axe are 25 attacks on 3s and crushing 2. So that's 25 attacks on 3s and 3s with a with one-time brutal as well. So that'll probably just walk through my mummies. It doesn't even need this second unit to help, so yikes. But again, I don't have that much experience against or with orcs, and there's a difference between looking at something in paper, at least for me, and experiencing it. So I send my mummies forward going like, yeah, they're mummies, they'll be fine. So that's the plan. And over here on the right, yeah, I'm just gonna sit still. I back my skeleton outside of 6 or 15 inches. Is that it? 14 inches, right? Because they're speed 5, so they charge 10 plus wild charge D3, and then plus the 1 for the Gakamax banner, so that's going to be a 14-inch charge. So I'm sitting just at a 14 of these guys. Now, I also think I moved out of charge range of this Crusher with my skeletons, but I'm not sure that's necessary. These guys, I just stay out of range of the Morax and allow the Crusher to come into me, because in my head, I don't want it. I don't want this guy to actually work as chaff. I want him to go into my Enslaved Guardians, or I want that Crusher to try to chaff up a unit that will just kill it on the counter charge. So that's going to be my plan right now. At least that's how I see it in my head. And then the archers obviously just sit still, and then I move my ASB forward a little bit. My opponent has very light shooting, and almost none of it is alive, and none of it is over here. So I want to get the Inspiring Bubble onto these guys, just in case. Just in case I mess up, right? I messed up the movement or something. And here we go with shooting. So we start with this Balefire Catapult. This is the Shattering one. Yeah, and so it hits the Skulks, gets them up to 6 wounds, just like their predecessors. And with Shattering, I'm okay with that. That's a not double one to Waver. A Waver would actually be amazing right now, because it would trap this unit, and then my mummies are free to do whatever they want for another turn. So anyway, we're going to go for that. And over here, we've got the crossbowmen firing into these Skulks, managing 4 damage, which is pretty respectable. These guys are within the minimum range of my catapult, so I cannot fire at them. And then we've got the archers here, yeah, doing another 9 damage to the other Morax, and that's just fantastic. I think on average, these guys do like 6 damage with that elite, so getting to 9 that's ace, especially, again, in turn 1 and turn 2. These are big rolls. And over here with the Soul Snare, it manages 4 wounds, which is pretty good on Long Axe, because Long Axe are tough 5, which is a bit of a difference from the rest of this Orc list, which is all tough 4, or defense 4. So yeah, 4 wounds is very respectable, and I might actually need it now that I'm doing the math on these giants. It might not be as good of a charge as I thought it was. So anyway, we've got Sebek here, first off, casting into the giant. So it's really nice. I had 3 wounds on me. I get to cast the Heal 5 with 2 rerolls, and then I get to cast Surge 8 with 2 rerolls. So yeah, really nice stuff there. So I get the giant fully healed up and into the flank of this unit. And over here, yeah, so we're getting into the nerve checks. I roll a boxcar to kill these Skulks. I obviously didn't need a boxcar, needed a 4, but, you know, I take pictures of these superfluous double ones. Why not the boxcars? So I wipe them out, get off the table. Over here, I end up getting a Waver onto these guys, and I'm okay with that. Obviously, I'd prefer a kill, but it was a 7 twice to kill, so I'll take the Waver. And here we go with the end of turn shot. Now, you might notice a few things about the combats. First off, I didn't manage to kill the second Morax. I mean, again, it was an 8 twice, so not the best. The mummies do manage to kill that Crusher and then turn to face these 2 units just to make sure that they're in the front. But I'm pretty sure the Great Axe alone can kill me, so we'll see. This giant, on the other hand, so these units right here, I end up getting the unit up to 17 damage, which is that That might be a little low, right? Because the giants are 12 attacks plus d6 times 2 and then another d6. So let's put that at the low end, right, and put it at 10. So that's 22 attacks on 4s and 2s, right? So that's about 10-ish damage. These guys have about 5-ish hits and maybe 2 wounds, so that's 12-ish damage. So this is actually pretty good now that I look at it, because a 16 is about right. I've got 17 right there, including the drain life, of course. So yeah, I put them up to 17 wounds, but here's where orcs are pretty neat, at least against my army right now, because I can't see this war drum, and I can't pick it out. I don't have any, flyers or any nonsense like that. So this war drum is knocking this unit, which is normally, I believe, a 21-23, to being a 23-25, which is... difficult. I do get a little lucky here and get a waiver. So at least I've got that going for me, because I think I've made a bit of a critical error here by not just doing the math beforehand. So anyway, I've got a waiver right there, so I guess that's nice. I could have just lied and been like, oh, I'm just teaching a new player how flank charges with surge work. But no, I just didn't think about it. I just didn't do the math beforehand. So anyway, let's go into turn 2 for the orcs, or the porks. So first off, we've got on the left here, yeah, these guys just sort of sit still. I mean, these guys actually sit still, and I think this actually didn't move as well. It might have moved a little bit just to dodge any weird flank shenanigans with this unit of, or normal charge shenanigans with this unit of skeleton spearmen, just to make sure, which is fair enough. The mummies get charged by the horde of Great Axe. That is not what what I want, but, it's better than, I guess, my skeletons. Actually, is it? No, it's worse. The skeletons would have been better. And over here, I would have sent these skeletons in, but they actually weren't in range, just barely. So the mummies had to go. And then you can see it right here. The Morax go into the flank of that giant. So that's going to be 40 attacks on 3s and 4s. I'm not thinking that giant's going to be fine. So over here, we have the long axe just sitting still. They don't even disengage from me, which I guess it's okay. And then on the far right flank, or as I would see it, the right flank, my opponent has just moved forward with all their weight as far as they can. So they're just trying to get a bit more utility out of these Morax before they die, because they're already at 9 wounds. So with my shooting, I'll probably be able to take them down and place themselves into a better place to use this horde of Great Axe. Now, the Crusher comes into play here, which is going into my Enslaved Guardians. All it needs to do is 1 wound, and then I'm disordered, so I can't just travel through this yielding character. So that's going to be the plan there, just to make sure that the Great Axe can get a charge going. So that's that. And yeah, I don't think there's any more charges. I think all the little characters are hiding. So I guess we got a second picture of it. So over here, we've got the shooting from this Skulk Stalker. Fires into my crossbowman, doing 2 damage. You might notice that these guys don't have any damage on them anymore. That's due to the Soul Snare healing it off. So these guys are at 2 damage right now. I think they're at dash 11, so it'll be a 9 to kill them, which my opponent does not roll. Then we go into the combat. So the mummies here are fighting off these Great Axe. That's 25 attacks on 3s and 3s with Brutal. They do 11 damage to me. So that's a 12 with Brutal. So that's going to be a 6 to kill me twice. They get it on the first roll. And then, no, that's right. They just roll a 5. So yeah, just 1 under. And I'm like, whoo, yes, nice. Anytime you get to live through one of those attacks, you thank your lucky stars. So anyway, the mummies are up and running. That feels great. And off here, yeah, the giant, not so lucky. I actually was pretty lucky. My opponent rolled abysmally on the hit and wounds with the Morax, but thankfully nailed it on the nerve checks, just showing off that it's not a bad roll until you roll nerve, right? So yeah, just on the nerve, shanks it, kills, or it doesn't shake it, but shanks this guy, kills him, knocks him down. Then I will say that I was a little out of range with Sebek for Inspire, but due to the very inspiring, it just lets you make those mistakes and still be within range. So I'm slightly out of 6, but well within 9. So anyway, got that Inspire. And here we go with the end of turn shot. So just the 1 giant got killed off. The rest of the Empire Dust is still fully functional. In fact, I haven't lost it. Well, I lost another unit? No, I just lost that 1 giant. So things are looking pretty good for me. It'll be a tough battle. Let's see how it goes in turn 3. So turn 3 for the Empire Dust. First off, on the left, I move these skeleton spearmen forward, just going for a flank charge onto these guys. I actually could have put myself closer, a little bit closer. I'm not sure I could have made it a 1-inch, but this is, I think, a 3-inch surge. But the idea was I disengage with the mummies here, and I roll my regen. I don't roll too well. I only get 2 back, but that's okay. And then I've just created little gaps in the line here, so my crossbowmen can see through and shoot at this unit of porks before I send the mummies in. So again, the plan is that this unit gets surged by my monolith, right? These mummies get surged by Sebek, because I do have 1 skeletal unit within 6 inches, so I have 1 reroll. I also need to hit that heal, right? Because I took 11 damage. I was like, I'm not going to regen all that back. So my plan here is to back up, regen, then I'm going to pop my healing pot, get as many wounds as I can, then have Sebek cast heal, and then cast the surge, right? So it's a 1-inch surge. So I can get a bit of shooting in there as well, because I'm not going to be able to do anything to this unit with a regiment of mummies without it. And I don't have really anything else to shoot at besides these guys. So I might as well just leverage the surge, kill them off that way, and then get all the shooting here. Now, I say that this was a little unnecessary because I looked at it after I went for the surge, and I'm like, because I have to do it first, right? The monolith has to surge first. So I'm like, oh man, I can just see without that, right? Like, it doesn't matter. So anyway, a lot of bluster over nothing. So I regen 2 back. I get 2 back from my healing brew, so that's nice. The regen wasn't great, but the healing brew makes up for it. So I'm down to 7 wounds right now. And then I send in the skeletons and or the spearmen and the bone giant again into this unit of long axe. I did see if this giant could do the exact same thing to these guys. I was like, if I disengage 1 and then walk over here, can I hit your flank? And it's just barely not possible. So I'm like, nah. I could have gone for the flank on these great axe, but I didn't have anything to support him because this guy did 1 damage to me, so I can't just swing into the front with the enslaved guardians and then into the flank with the giant, which seems okay. I probably should just finish the job I started as opposed to going for another one. Something I should learn in the rest of my life, I guess. These skeletons, when they move forward, they just hit the unit and then slide in without hitting the terrain, I want to say. Maybe they did hit the terrain, and I've just not put the hindered marker out right now. But either way, I don't expect to kill this unit of Morax. I would like to, right, because they're so damaged. Even 1 damage, because the war drum is not... The war drum's back here, I think. So the war drum's not in range, so that'll be a 5 twice to kill them. So any amount of damage is good damage, of course. But if I don't kill them, I wouldn't be particularly upset because they are blocking in this horde right now. And now that I've charged into them, this is base to base with this. Then this is base to base, right? My skeletons are base to base. So this unit's just kind of stuck if the Morax survive. So that's the idea. And of course, my enslaved guardians just countercharge into that crusher, looking to kill it off. And in shooting, I fire, first off, I do land the surge with the monolith, and then I fire all of this into the horde of great axe. I manage a couple wounds. I did pretty poorly with my hit, but I wasn't really expecting too much. I wanted this thing to hit, of course, but I'm not sure it had line of sight, so I think it just didn't have a shot this turn. And then these guys do like 1 or 2 damage, which is okay. Then we go for the heal here, along with the drain life. So with all that, the drain life fails this turn. I think I only hit twice. And then the heal also doesn't do particularly well. You can see I'm down to 4 wounds. So I healed 3, but that was with a reroll on 5. I guess that's okay. That's actually pretty good. But at the time I was like, man, I wish I could. Well, that's right. This is a heal 5 with the drain life 9. That's why I was looking at it going like, why am I at 4 wounds still? So anyway, with that, I go into the front of the Great Axe anyway, because I've got that 1-inch surge. This is a second lease at life, so I'm not too upset about any of this stuff, obviously, not really. But if I were able to leverage this even harder, obviously I'd want to. And in What is this a picture of? Oh, the catapult's gonna fire. So the catapult fires off at at these long axe and does a bit of damage along. Yeah, 10 damage, pretty good. I actually miss with the catapult again. That right catapult has yet to hit, but the skeleton archers do land quite a few wounds. You can see that's at 10, and that's with cover. I'm pretty sure they have cover against it, so that's insane. these enslaved guardian archers, wow, insanely good. So anyway, I charge into the flank here. This 4 is not indicative of how many wounds they have. They have 12 on them, and of course, I roll a double 1. But thankfully, they're devastated. So, that double 1, everything's fine because devastated solves it, right? Devastated, it's a good rule. So anyway, just gonna stare that down. But up here on the hill, I do manage to kill off the long axe, so I'm very, very happy with that. Now, orcs are still incredibly dangerous. All these units have crushing at least 1, right? Like that's 2 crudgers, right? They are 5 attacks each with crushing 2. Oof. And then that's Morax, right? That's 20 attacks on 3s and 4s. So this giant is fresh, ready to go, but I don't know if it can handle this kind of a rumble. I do pivot to make sure that these guys are in my front, and then these guys pivoted a little bit just to allow that. And over here, yep, the dice giveth, and the dice tooketh first, and then they giveth. So right here, I get the horde of great axe up. I do an okay number of wounds. I'm quite okay with it. But the big thing is that I roll a boxcar and I just get that waiver. Boxcar, it's a good rule, right? Waivers cool. So yeah, these orcs just staring that down. Now it might be worth on the great axe now that I'm looking at it. So they have all these Pathfinder items, but maybe just go for the Fury and Headstrong items. Maybe, because I don't think orcs have another way. I don't think they have an aura Fury at all. So that might be the way to go. Anyway, so this is what it looks like at the end of turn 3 for the Empire of Dust. You can see, I looks like I forgot to take a picture, but these guys just maul. They maul those Morax. It's pretty nuts. They do like 6 damage. That's 25 attacks on either 5s or 6s. Who cares which? And then wounding on 4s. I managed 6 damage, so I don't roll the double 1 there. Walk right through them. And then I do adjust this again after I took this picture a bit more. So I can adjust to make it so this corner is in the forest, since these guys are wider than me. If they want to charge the skeletons, they'll be hindered. And then I actually, you might notice that this Crusher's alive. That's because I forgot about this combat again until after this picture. So I do kill this guy off, and I pivot them as well to make it so no matter who these Great Axe charge, it's going to be a hindered charge due to walking into the forest a little bit. Towing it, right? Just towing it to get that -1. So things are looking a little grim for the Porks. Let's see what they can do about it in their turn 3. So Pork turn 3, we have these guys just sit there. The Skulks, which were here, charge into one of my Balefires. That's a fair charge. I mean, they get triple the attacks or treble the attacks. They're down to 4, so they're up to 12 on 5s and 3s. That's not bad. Then over here, we've got everything charging into my giant, because why charge the skeletons? So that's 2 Crudgers, that's a War Drum, and that's the Morax going in there, trying to kill that off. And the Great Axe here choose to charge into my unit of skeletons. Now again, this is one of those things, I was talking about it earlier with swapping the Long Axe. And the Long Axe had Pathfinder. I think Pathfinder would have been more relevant over here in the trees. Now this is in retrospect, because I do remember talking to my opponent about it while they were deploying, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I mean, you put the unit with Pathfinder in the trees and then they run out, right, to maintain your battle line. But then they deployed the rest of their army in a way that isn't really a battle line, right? Or they didn't move it in a battle line way, and then I got turn 1 and sort of deleted some units. And it might have been better, they might have been better off just going like, well, I'm probably going to end up fighting in those trees, right? Or I'm going to be fighting over here, and anticipating for that. But anyway, hindsight and all that, right? So they charge in there, and we've got well, we do have some shooting. This guy fires into my, again, they're unwounded, unwounded crossbows. Why are they, did I heal them with the drain life? I must have. Well, I feel bad about the the mummies then. What was the plan there? So yeah, we fire into, they're gonna fire into there, do a couple wounds. So first off, in this charge, they only manage 1 wound, so they do disorder it, but fortunately do not kill it, or I guess unfortunately, depends on what side you're on. And over here, they get the giant up to 13 wounds, which I'm not even sure that's very good, but thankfully they do sink that kill, so the giant is gone, and then they're all gonna reform as best they can. And over here, they do these Great Axe even hindered, right? So that's 25 attacks on 4s, and then they wound on 2s because Great Axe are nuts. They get me up to 15 wounds, and that is because this Crudger joined in last second, was like, yeah, why not throw a Crudger in there? And then hits 5 out of 5 shots and wounds 5 out of 5 wounds, and I'm like, yep, that Crudger's great. But my opponent again misses the nerve by 1. And here is something that I feel bad about now, but I didn't tell my opponent. I'm kidding. I actually didn't notice until I was looking at this picture. These green dots back here represent my opponent's Orcish skull poles, and they did miss this nerve check by 1, and they didn't pop the skull pole. I feel real bad about that now because this horde would be dead, and it'd be a bit of a better game that way, but you know, it's not what happened. So anyway, moving forward, here is the end of turn shot. You can see all of our victory beers. Corona, I don't know, a little on the nose there, but anyway, so as you can see, yeah, these guys are just staring into the flank. Did the giant not die? Oh man, I didn't realize that. Oh, that's right, my opponent missed the nerve here by 1 as well. So yeah, they missed the nerve here by 1. Now they didn't have any skull poles, so that one doesn't really matter. But then this one they missed by 1, and they had a skull pole that they forgot to forgot to pop. So that feels bad. So, but anyway, let's move on to turn 4, starting with the Empire Dust. So on turn 4, I do the exact same thing with the mummies. I didn't get charged, but I disengage 1 inch, I regen that up, and then I'm going to go for a few shots. I can see, I think these guys have a very small line that they can see, and then I have the artillery, well, it's disordered anyway, but I can't see. Then these guys have a very small line to fire into these skulks, so that's going to be the plan there. But the big thing for the Great Axe, I'm going to just try to drain it down as best I can, right? So I'm going for that. I'm going to try to heal, do the same thing. So I'm going to go for the heal, surge there, and then I turn with my spearman, and I walk 1 inch away from this Skulk Stalker, because I can hit it, kill it, and overrun, and that gives me 2 shots at that nerve check, just in case you roll a double 1, you get a second shot at it, assuming that these guys can, kill this, hit the overrun, and do 1 more wound. You roll the nerve again for combat. So anyway, then over here with the giant, I actually can't charge the Morax because I'm in their flank and I can't reach their flank. So instead, I charge into the Crudger that's in front of me, because if I kill it and overrun, I can hit the War Drum and try to kill that off as well. So that's going to be the plan. I don't expect too much, because with that War Drum, these Crudgers are 14-16s with Def 5, and these giants are rolling a lot of 1s to wound. So, I don't expect too much of that. But again, the giants survive, so anything now is just gravy, right? And off here on the right, I decided to get, a little squirrely, and I take my horde of skeleton warriors and I decide to countercharge into the Crudger, because screw that guy, and then I walk the enslaved guardians 1 inch away from the flank, because I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get some shooting in. I'm gonna do it this way. So that's gonna be the plan. Let's see how it works out. Over here, just showing off this combat, I guess, and I guess we're not going to show the shooting. I do these guys again on the countercharge on 5s and 5s. I do 6 more wounds to the Crudger, because skeletons are great, and we get a waiver, so I'm feeling real good about that. Now, it was a 12-14, so it's an 8 twice to kill, but I'll take the 6 waiver. That's fine. Good job, skeletons. And over here, yeah, I do get the shooting in here. I don't know, 1 or 2 wounds. I didn't actually roll that well with the shooting this turn, but it doesn't matter because I get this flank charge and do an obscene number of wounds. So anyway, moving on. Up here, the giant, it does pretty well with its hits and wounds, but that 14-16 is just a little too hard for it to bust through. I also go for the heal here with my drain life. either Drain Life or Sebek. I'm not sure which went for the heal, but anyway, I went for the heal. I got a couple wounds back, but this is a flank charge, so I'm not sure that's relevant. And over here, the mummies, yeah, they they kill off that horde of Great Axe. I do get a bit more shooting in there. I did go for the Drain Life. I actually really rolled well on the hits and wounds on it. So I managed to punk this unit with a regiment of mummies just through, a little bit of liberal, my opponent rolling poorly on nerve checks, me rolling a boxcar, and then just using a bunch of surge shenanigans. Normal stuff. So the mummies are also at full health, by the way, because why not? And over here, I did also charge this after I did the mummies. I managed 2 wounds, and I get a waiver, so I'm feeling good about that. And here is the end of turn shot. Things are looking quite grim for the Orcs. They can technically win right now, but it's rough. So anyway, let's see what they've got with Orc turn 4, or Pork turn 4. So we have the Morax deciding to kill off my giant. That's fair enough. This Crudger goes into my Skeleton Spearman. Yeah, Crudgers are quite deadly, so why not? I think this Crudger countercharged the giant just to, make sure that it happens. And the War Drum just sat still. Now, that War Drum might have also been a flank charge. So I'm not sure you need that, but you could have gone for it, I guess. And then this Crudger tries to do a bit of tries to be a sneaky little boy, disengages one, turns around, right, to be facing like this with its individual pivot, either the individual pivot or its nimble pivot, I'm not sure which, but then when it walks 2.5 inches, yeah, it can still be seen by me, so unfortunate for the Crudger there, but it tried, and that's what counts. And here is, yeah, just another shot of that. And here we go in the combat. Yeah, that giant also falls to the Morax, also to a flank charge from the same Morax, so that's funny. And here is the end of Pork turn 4. So they managed to kill off my second giant, but no more. Oh, I did forget to mention the skulks over here. Yes, these guys did hit and wound with at least 1 shot, and I don't double on it, so they are dead as well. So my opponent's looking a little thin on the lines there, but let's see how things go with Empire Dust turn 5. So turn 5, it's a bit simple. I don't have too much to do with these units, so I just move over to the objectives. No one's burned any objectives, partly due to forgetting and partly due to when I was remembering. There's just no point to it, right? Because I was winning. Right, and I have the objective strong side of the board, so why would I burn these? So anyway, I just move my units within 3 inches of these objectives just to hold them. I don't have this one because of the mummies, but I saw that these guys had a flank charge on the Morax. Now, there was not a way to protect against the flank here and the flank here. I think that taking mummies to the flank would have been better, but my opponent was like, whatever at that point. So I send the Enslaved Guardians into the flank, I send the mummies into the front, looking to kill off the last regiment on the table. All I have to do is kill that little War Drum, and my opponent literally has no scoring units at all, so they can't do anything. So anyway, I then sidestep with my Skeleton Spearman, because why charge? Because I have a bit of shooting. Now these are pot shots, but they are still shooting. And then I also move the the Soul Snare forward to also drain onto this Crudger, just looking to kill it off. I tried to get the War Drum. I tried real hard, including, just cheating. But my opponent caught me, and it's just not possible to see this guy and have it in my arc. So anyway, that's that. Let's go into the end of turn shot. Yeah, pretty much all the Orcs are gone. I did also get a surge charge here, so I did that little fancy maneuver. I still had this unit on my corner, so I had the surge 4, and then I have a very small line where I can see through with this as well. So anyway, I shoot at the Crudger here. I do a couple wounds with it, and then I charge in and do zero wounds. I'm not sure if I even hit, so there's no nerve check on this Crudger, so it ended up being fine. The other Crudger fighting against these skeletons, I do 6 more wounds because skeletons are nuts, and just walk through that Crudger. And then this is the end of turn shot for the Empire Dust. My opponent has 2 Crudgers and a War Drum left. Let's see what they've got. yeah, they just scoop and go, I think I'm done. So this is the end of turn shot, or end of game shot. Now, keep in mind, I am within 3 inches just barely of this objective. So I have this objective, this objective, this objective, this objective, this objective, and the center objective. So I'm looking at a hot 6 points right now. The only objective I don't have is this one over here, which I'm not sure my undead can even get to. So yeah, I'll take a 6-0 victory for the Empire of Dust. I wouldn't read too far into it. Of course, my opponent is very new to Orcs. So, you know, this was literally their first game with Orcs. And Orcs are an army of positioning. So, anyway, still feels good to win. Hope you guys liked it. And let's talk about those lists a little bit. So, I couldn't get the Orcs on the left for some reason to orient. But let's start with the Empire Dust then. So this is my Empire Dust list that I've played a few times on the channel, and I really like it. Before, I had the Cursed High Priest with Heal 5, Surge 8, and the Conjurer's Staff. That is 5 points cheaper than Sebic Ray. Always choose Sebic Ray over that. for 5 points, you're going to get very inspiring instead of inspiring, and then you're going to be able to cast your heal and your surge on the same target. That's an insanely good ability. It's in the dwarves, but it's nowhere near. Well, they've got the Bane Chant one where they Bane Chant and then surge, which is nowhere near as good as being able to cast heal and then surge. And as far as I can tell, with the new Reanimator, in the same way that the Conjurer's Staff lets you roll twice for the dwarf, you can use that reroll twice. So you can use it on the heal and you can use it on the surge. So just a pretty good piece. I'm not sure I would, like, for 155 points, I would, in other armies, right, I'd look at this and be like, nah. But in Empire Dust, that's a really good caster. So Sebic Ray, I definitely give it my stamp of approval. The only thing I did was, I think the mummies had the Sanguinary Scripture, so they'd Life Leech too, and I just knocked it down to the Healing Brew. So I'm pretty happy with this list right now. It's pretty good. I will have to see once the, all the shooting comes back. In fact, I had a bit of a Tremonic Legion list where I was using the new tree guy with the phalanx for all the verdant units, and then having just a bunch of heart piercers as my second area, just because heart piercers are so good. But anyway, we'll have to wait for that and see how this list does against those armies in the future, because I think those Flamebearer and heart piercer lists are going to be going up in stock quite a bit, even though they were pretty good when they were even when they didn't unlock. I was running lists with Flamebearers constantly. They're such a good unit. And now that they unlock, why wouldn't you? So anyway, let's talk about the Orcs a little bit here. So this Orc list, I actually wrote it. So I wrote this a while back. I like Skulks a lot, and my opponent told me they wanted to play Orcs and they wanted to use Skulks because they had models with guns. And I was like, all right, I have one of those. I'd never played the Skulk version of this list, but I do look at it and I go, yeah, the Skulks are weaker than the Eric Trowbridge version. I'm not a big, like this person made the list, but when you win the U.S. Masters with a list, you get talked about. So yeah, Eric's list, instead of having the Skulks, has the Orklings in it, and I think it's probably a little bit better. Although, with again that larger emphasis on small arms fire in the game again, maybe it isn't. Maybe the Great Axe hordes, which the biggest weakness is that they're defense 4, maybe they're not the way forward. Maybe it's a long axe now. Because the Great Axe's biggest strength is that they hit on a 3 and then they're crushing 2. And then they have a 23-25 breakpoint, assuming that they're 22-24. Assuming that they have the Rally 2 on them, right? So the point of a Great Axe is that you block off the too many combo charges, and then you go, this is the amount of damage I'm going to take, and then I'm going to be a 22-24. I'm not going to be broken. I'm not going to waver. I delete anything I fight. and then it lets you 2-for-1 always, right? So if someone charges you, you kill that, and then they have to send another unit to actually finish you off. So I really like that playstyle, but maybe with the new Heartpiercer and Flamebearer and Gladestalker meta, maybe that's just enough damage that you're gonna go like, fuck fighting Great Axe, I'm just gonna shoot them. So I don't know, maybe Long Axe is the way forward in the future, but yeah, it is at least interesting. Orcs are one of those armies that I think is really, really strong, but it has very limited lists in which it is strong, or at least in my very uneducated opinion, right? I haven't spent that much time with them, but it seems like when you're playing them, so much depends on how good at positioning you really are, because Orcs are incredibly strong in terms of that crushing and then that plus nerve, right? They will kill whatever they touch, but they're using these very large unwieldy units, so you really need to master your positioning and know where your units are going to be turns and turns before. So yeah, I like the army. I think that maybe a little bit of messing around with it would be good. The new Orc Wizard seems interesting. There's always the Godspeaker heal build, right, where you bring stuff like a Long Axe and legions of, what are they, Young Axe? What's the, anyway, the regular, the lowest rank of axe, the tiny axe, the hatchets. Those guys, you can bring in Legion, and then you can bring Long Axe, and then you have a very defensive line that gets healed, right? And the new Orc character I actually like quite a bit, because they come with Fireball 7 and then Banechant 3. They still have the Orc rule, so they get +1 to the plus N to their cast. That's maxes out at 3, equal to the number of hordes around them. And then when they cast Banechant at Banechant 6, the Orc unit they cast Banechant on gets a Life Leech 1 per success of Banechant, so up to Life Leech 3. So with Life Leech 3, with that Banechant, and with normal Godspeaker's healing, there might be something there. So anyway, just something to think about. This Orc list probably needs to go back to the shop and spend a bit more time, messing around with it a little bit. But I think that there's definitely something there. Orcs are excellent. And the Empire Dust list, I think, is about as tuned as it's going to get for the time being. So I hope you guys liked it. And until next time, bye.